Well, hello out there in Facebook land, and those of you that have come in to join us today. Welcome to the very first Facebook Live of Hard Conversations. Why America? This is going to be interesting. I asked someone about the conversations, and I asked, "Why are we doing this? What's the purpose?" And someone said, "Just to have conversations." Father John said that because it seems like now in America, every conversation is hard. I don't care what conversation you're having. And so we thought we'd take advantage of this opportunity and this time to bring some things to light, to share why this is a great country, and to share not with just those of us that have were born in America, but those that came to America because it was a great country. And then also those of us that were born here, we're able to share why we are adamant that we don't want to live anywhere else. And everything needs improving. I need improving as an individual. Um, our city needs improving. Our school needs improving. Our roads need improving. Lots of things. Everything needs improving. But so it's not perfect. We're not saying it's a perfect place, but man, it's a good place. And I am very excited to be here. And again, we welcome you and thank you for joining us. We're hoping to accomplish this extended and expanded conversation with people and become aware of others' journey as they've come into our country and just have that conversation. And before I forget, I want to invite you, if you think you'd like to be a part of having this conversation, then join us. Then PM us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, let us know. And we hope to do this weekly for right now. Don't know how long it'll be, but we're hoping to just be able to open up dialogue with us Americans because it is a great place to be. To my left, I have, he's so cute. Anyway, I have Pastor Roy Smith. He's the pastor and founder of True Light Christian Fellowship. Myself, I am Carla Smith. To my right here, I have the lovely Mrs. Lucy Cisniega, and she'll tell you more about herself. And then I have a very good friend of mine and Roy's, Father John Stasny, which is so weird because I'm just now thinking about this, but he and Roy actually met at a Promise Keepers meeting many years ago and decided at that time, you know what? We're breaking down racial barriers and we're going to break down denominational barriers. And we formed, our two churches formed together a terrific bond of friendship that has lasted and withstood the test of time. And so they are very good personal friends of ours also, as is Miss Lucy, who I only met a couple of years ago, but we've become buds. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to start, I guess, with Father John. No, I'll start with Lucy. I'll start with Lucy. And Lucy, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, good afternoon to everyone. So my name is Lucy Cisniega. Um, I moved to United States when I was 19 years old. I moved to Midland 7 years ago. Um, I'm married. I have two daughters. One is in college, 20 years old. I have a 6 year old. She's the Midland water. 6 months after I moved to Midland, I got pregnant. And believe me, I was already 44 years old. So this city has been blessing for us. And um, I we own a couple of businesses here. Um, I'm a commercial real estate agent. We also own a tequila company, alcohol distributor, me and my husband. I have a maintenance company. Um, I also do commercial real estate, and I serve in several different boards here in Midland. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And we'll go to Father John. Push it up and it'll be ready. There you go.
Well, I'm Father John Stasny. I grew up in the small town of Albany, Texas, 2,000 people. And I went to high school in Dallas, so I had small town, big city experience. And I went to college in the East Coast at Yale. And then I went to college at University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. And then I went to seminary at Berkeley, California on the West Coast. So I've experienced the country. And it is a great country. but it's not a perfect country, as you said. But I think about the principle of the Reformation, semper reformanda, always reforming. That's what the church ought to be doing all the time, always reforming. And that's what all of us need to do individually, and that's what we need to do as a country, always reforming. And we've come a long way, but we're not perfect, and that's what our goal is to reach further.
All right. Now the cute guy, Pastor
Right.
Roy.
I'm Pastor Roy Smith here at True Light Christian Fellowship Church. Kind of born I was born in Hobbs, New Mexico, and we came over to Midland when I was in elementary school. We were kind of back and forth between the two places. So most of my rearing and my raising and my young childhood was here in South Midland. I grew up here, graduated high school here, started pastoring a church when I was very young, 23, I guess, right about the time, soon after we got married and had our first child. But I just believe that what everyone else has said, that we don't live in a perfect country. We live in a broken country like everything else in the world is broken. It's we're broken people. But what we do best when we do it well is talk and conversate. And there can be no healing and there can be no new place of movement until we get to a place where we can sit down with reasonable people and talk through our journeys as to why we do what we do and why we believe what we believe. So I'm excited to be here. We have two kids. Both of them are adults. Our son lives here with us, and he has three kids. We have three grandbabies, and two of them are grown now, and one little one that runs everything. But our son has been with the police department about 20 years now. He's a sergeant with the Midland Police Department. Our daughter works for an oil company here, and she too is in real estate. So um, we have a good life, and we're happy about that.
All right. Thank y'all so much. So, Lucy, I'm going to throw it back on you. We'll just jump right in and start swimming. You mentioned that you came to the United States when you were 19, and you're still here.
I'm
So
still here.
I guess you like it a little bit.
I like it a lot.
You like it a lot? Okay. So what brought you here and what kept you here?
Well, I'm from Mexico. I born in Mexico. We have a big family. We're 11, and I love Mexico. But I always have big dreams. And in my culture, when you finish school, back then, you just finish school and you just marry and have kids, and that's what you do. That's that's the way that Mexican culture used to be. And I was not ready for that. I
Mhm.
really had a lot of dreams, and I wanted to become, you know, someone in life. And I always heard about the American dream, and I always hear all these stories about people, immigrants that come to United States and accomplish so many things. So that always stick in my mind, and I say I want to do that. I just
Right.
want to do that. So that's when I decided to move to United States. And I didn't have any family, I didn't have anybody. I just have a lot of dreams that I wanted to do. And I was so excited. I was afraid. I was nervous. I didn't know the language, so that's the reason that I moved. And I say just God help me that one day I can accomplish everything that I want to. And I want to live the American dream. I want to live in a country that I can become and do whatever I want in life. And that's what I did. Now, I'm 50 years old. I'm proud to say.
That's good. That's great.
And I really cry because I always say, like, oh, when I turn 50, I wish I can say that I accomplished most of the things that I wanted in life. And I really cry, and I cried because I was not sad to be 50. I was just so happy that God uh, helped me to be strong and kind of like overcome all the challenges that immigrants have when they come to this country. And I just, for every challenge that I have, I say, you know what, just it's like when you're a little kid, you just run and you fall. But then what does your mom tell you? Just stand up and try it again. And I always think that way. It's like, I know it's not gonna be perfect, but I just want to do it. And I can say I have a list of all the things that I wanted to do, and thank God I did. And really, there's no other country that I know that we can do everything that we wanted to. Yeah, it not easy, like we said, and that's why we're having this conversation, because a lot of people think, because whenever you're here, they don't see all the struggles that went through your life, and they just think that you're lucky, or they just think that you just have to, you just luck, but it's not really. And we're here to have those conversations, because we really wanted to get out there to all the people that maybe are struggling, and maybe they're thinking that uh, because they're immigrants they don't have a chance. Well, let me tell you, that's not true. That's not true. We all have the same chances, and it's up to us to overcome all those challenges that we have in life to do whatever we want to do. So that's me.
Like I said, I've come to know Lucy and love her and know her story so much so I asked her to come and share it with our youth, because she makes me proud to be an American just because she's here. And I appreciate her. And one phrase that she uses all the time that I have adopted is that life is hard, but what? But it's beautiful.
But it's
And she's
beautiful. Yes,
she always says,
yes, I would
life is
say.
hard, but it's beautiful. And I
Yes.
mean, I've even shared that with other people that are struggling right now, going
Thank
through different things. I will tell them, my friend said, life is hard, but it's beautiful. And
It
so
is.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Um, Pastor Roy, you came here from Hobbs when you were in the fourth,
Off and on all
seventh,
my elementary years, from
okay,
6 to 12 years old or so. We
and
were back and
actually moved
forth.
in the seventh grade. Is
Yes,
that right? Okay.
that's correct.
So, coming to Midland, what did you experience?
Well, the community that I lived in Hobbs, I grew up in elementary school where it was mostly just Black and Hispanic people. So one of the kind of cultural shocks to me was to be involved in a community where all races of people were together. They went to school together. So because I wasn't used to that, I was used to Black and Hispanics, but we didn't know any white people, and it really never dawned on me that that's how I grew up. But it dawned on me a few years back that that's how I grew up. But when I got here, it has always been innate in me to understand that people are and vary in color and ethnicity, but the design, and I looked at it like being on the earth. If you decide that you don't like the earth, you just can't up and leave. You don't have that alternative. And the same thing is true with people. You're going to be with people of all different nationalities, ethnicities, cultural designs, and you have to learn to live and love people uh, with all those differences. So that's one of the things that hit me right away, very early in life, was to love people who, no matter who they are.
All right, Father John, I know I know a lot about you, so I'm trying not to ask questions that just assuming things. But um, given all the places that you've lived, what's your bird's eye view? Because you've been East Coast, West Coast. I know what you did in Dallas, where you were, and all that. Having all these pockets to look down on, what do you see? What did you see? What did you take away?
Well, I'm the oldest person here
All right.
at 79.
Yes.
So I can remember growing up in Albany when there were no black students in my grade school. There was a one-room schoolhouse for the black children in town, which was a very distinct minority. So, I mean, if they had integrated, it would be no more than one person per
Right.
class, probably. But then they didn't even have a high school for black children. So the black children had to go to Abilene and basically live as boarders to go to high school. It was just a crazy system.
Mhm.
But I also remember, when we'd be traveling and there'd be white and colored drinking fountains and white and colored restrooms, which, a service station would have four restrooms, which was,
Right.
additional expense for no real reason. Uh, and so I've seen some changes in my lifetime. And one of the things, and of course, when I went to college, there was all kinds of ethnicities, all kinds of colors and races. And as the same was true for seminary. In fact, we had an American Indian student in my class, and he said he had to talk to his children when they were watching cowboy and Indian movies, and said, "Look, they were cheering for the cowboy." He said, "Look, you remember who we are."
Right.
But you mentioned the experience in Dallas. I was, after I graduated from seminary, I went to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, which, as it turns out, is the address of the White House. But in Dallas, it's a completely African American neighborhood. And we had we started a school. It was a community center with a sports program, but we started a school for children, and very early on, when I was talking with the children, I remember one time especially when um, we were using a little Sunday school curriculum that was like a weekly reader, and it had a picture of a black girl on the front of on the cover, and the response, immediate response was, "Ugh, black." And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "She's not supposed to be. She's supposed to be white." And I said, "Well, what are we?" And they all went around and said, "I'm bright," meaning light skin color, or different things. But there was this sense that somehow I'm not worth anything being who I am. And another incidence of it was a little 4-year-old boy that was playing with a little rocket ship that you screw the top off and put a cap in and throw it and it explodes. And I said, "I had a toy like that when I was a little boy." And he said, "And you were a little boy once?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "And you were white then too?"
Yeah.
You know, some kind of sense, maybe I can grow out of this. Uh, but, I wonder the terrible effect that it has on some person's sense of self-worth. People don't understand that if not experienced that personally. And I was glad to have it vicariously to learn from that, that there's a lot to overcome here.
That's a lot. That's true. That's true.
So some
And,
of the overcoming
yeah.
isn't external. It's
Yeah,
internal.
yeah,
You have to overcome that. And I, being African American, probably hadn't noticed, but being African American as a parent, like you want to build that self-esteem and that self-worth in your home before they ever walk out the door, so that they are not left with the remnant that, why is this black person on the front of this book? And you mean I'm not going to grow out of this? Like I
yeah,
was hoping that when I got
yeah,
older I'd be white.
yeah,
I'm black right now, but
yeah,
and to to dissuade all of that mentality and anguish, because in the world, again, it's not a perfect world.
hmm,
There will be challenges, but when it has been instilled at home, you're able to overcome that in a positive manner. And I grew up kind of like Roy, um, in a city, because I don't want to down anybody right now, but in a city that did not desegregate the schools until there was a federal lawsuit,
hmm,
and it was not lifted until the 80s. So when I moved here to Midland in the ninth grade, it was my first experience also of interacting with white people. Like this was like all weird to me, because we lived on the south side, and you had your grocery stores, you had your laundromats, you had everything you needed on the south side. So you didn't venture across the tracks except to Walgreens, because it was right across the track. So we could go there, or we went there. But coming here was really culture shock for me to interact. But what I remember are those people that made me feel worth.
hmm,
And it wasn't necessarily all the time African American people. Um, it was all of and that was shocking to me, that there were all these white people at school that wanted to see me succeed, and that would do little extra things that I knew were little extra things that they didn't have to do to see to it that I succeeded in school. And that was foreign to me. That was just weird to me, because all I knew was what I'd heard about the white people. So that was a neat experience, and I'll go on in just a second. But even to the degree, one of them was our principal at the time, and we maintained long-term relationship with him, so much so when he passed away 3 years ago, he requested that Roy do his funeral service. And this is back in the 70s that we met these people, and we continued to be in their lives, and they continued to be a part of ours. His wife, she passed away a year later. She asked that Roy do her service, and they were long-term members of another church, a large white church here, but they cared about us. And there we can just name people all around that cared. And so yes, there were those naysayers, which I'm going to let you talk about that in a minute, your experience with that. But the good so outweighed the bad. The good so outweighed the bad that when the bad would come, I could think about the good that had happened and did not have to give way to that.
Sometimes the bad wasn't really bad. One example is I went to the grocery store near where I lived in South Dallas, and I was the only white person in there, and nobody was mean to me, but I just felt conspicuous. I stick out here.
Yes.
And so it wasn't that there was anything bad there, but it was just that I just felt, in an alien environment here because
And you can't help but notice that.
no.
And in Midland, the African American community is 6.9%. So chances of us going somewhere and being the only black person are very high. And it has nothing to do with racism. It's just the demographics of the city don't afford a large presence. As we went to Oakland, California, and that was even shocking to us, right? Went to Oakland, there's like lots of black people. And we went to Atlanta. Man, there are lots of black. Well, we've always been from West Texas, so we've never been in that type of environment. So I can see how coming from there to here, they would think, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? You feel like you said conspicuous. So yeah, it's just the demographics of Midland. Okay, so question: in this pandemic of cultural and ethnic clashing in America, what does it mean to you to be an American citizen? You go.
To be an American citizen is, I will go and lend myself back to something that Lucy said a little bit ago. It's the freedom to do and become what I want to be, what I want to do. Now, no one is absolutely free. You're not free to murder. You're not free to steal. You're not free to break in someone's home. That's not the type of freedom that we're talking about. But as one of our founding fathers said, is that this republic that we are in cannot continue as a republic without those who are able to govern themselves. So we live in a constitutional republic that calls for a person to be able to govern themselves. So inside of that, I think and know that you talk about systemic racism. We hear that phrase a lot, that there's a systematic form of racism in the country against minorities. Well, sometimes when you look at a coin, you only see one side of it and you never flip it over. There's another form of systemic racism, if you will, and let me give that to you in an American way. When you grow up in a household or in a community that always feeds you the rhetoric that you will never be nothing, that you will always be subservient, that you're always a second-class citizen, that white people will never regard you or respect you. When you're fed that as a black child or a Mexican child or Hispanic child, it's hard to, because that thinking becomes habitual in you now. And the more you grow, the more you start to hate those that are not like you. You're stuck in poverty, you feel. You're stuck in a place where you can't get out of, because by those that love you, that's what you've been fed all of your childhood and adolescence. And now suddenly you're supposed to be 18 or 19 and graduate from high school and become something? What does that mean? Because everybody who said they loved you has told you you would never amount to anything. So as an American, knowing that I can achieve and become something. I pastored the church, the most diverse ethnically church or ethnic church in this city. I have to learn how to deal with Mexican people. I have to learn how to deal with Hispanic people that was not born in Mexico. I have to learn how to deal with white people. I have to learn how to deal with black people. There's even racism between dark-skinned blacks and light-skinned blacks. There's a fight that go on right there as to who's the best. Hollywood made it pretty clear early on which blacks were best for them. They chose the light-skinned blacks over the dark-skinned blacks. It's it's a constant struggle, isn't it, Lucy? It's a constant struggle no matter who you are.
Yeah.
But in America, I can still become who I want to be. And that's been proven thousands and thousands of times.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You know,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to ask you the question too, Father John, but while you're answering, I'm going to get my phone because I needed to tell everybody to like us on Facebook, which I forgot to do it at the start. And I need to pull it up on my Facebook and share it so people that might be scrolling right now can look at it live. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm not ignoring
All right.
you. And so I'm going to ask you to do the same
I
thing,
will.
and you guys feel free to do the same thing. But we have such a great help here that's not on stage, our video tech, the wonderful Ben Roberts, who has
Oh, no,
the
wonderful.
questions up on the screen for me so that I don't have to fumble through those. He's just awesome. So, Father John, oh, and he switched questions on me. In this pandemic of culture and ethnic clashing in America, what does it mean to you to be an American citizen?
Well, it means I have a certain rights, but the main thing too, a lot of time is forgotten that I have certain responsibilities, and Roy mentioned them, that I have have a responsibility to self-govern to
Yes.
the extent that I'm not free to do things that are hurtful to others.
That's
And of
right.
course, that's when in our common Christian faith too, that we're free to love, but we're not free to do that kind of things that destroy others in any way.
That's right.
Uh, and so I think that's what we're missing a lot of the time now in some of the conversations, that everybody is asserting their rights, and that's legitimate. But we also need uh, to assert the fact that we have responsibilities living in a free country.
That's right.
Because in a non-free country, you're not free
That's right.
to be responsible. You just do what you're told.
That's right.
Yeah.
And most of the people in our country, if you ask them what kind of government we're in, they wouldn't know.
Yeah.
You ask them what is a constitutional republic, they wouldn't have an idea, because the word republic itself means that it's a public matter. That government is a public matter, not a private matter. It's not a monarchy.
Hmm.
We elect our representatives to support us in the state, but every state within the United States has its own republic, is its own republic. So most people would not have any idea what that means, but you have the freedom in this country to express yourself within the law. And what we see going around our country right now is just simple anarchy, where you have people that are disobeying constitutional law. And no form of government can work under lawlessness. Sure, there are misbehaviors. Sure, there's racism. Sure, there's prejudices. All of those things exist. But you work in the confinement of the laws to change things. You can't go outside of those laws, because if you do, then you become the very cancer that you're fighting against.
And you reminded me of a quote from Martin Luther King when he said, "No, the law can't make the white man love me, but it can keep him from lynching me, denying my children quality education."
That's right.
And
That's right.
Pull your mic closer.
and so that's
They
the
can't hear
next
you.
stage, is we got to move beyond just law, but move to
right.
loving one another.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
All right, Lucy, what does it mean to you to be an American?
I love this question, and I really totally agree with Pastor Roy and Pastor John about what they say. When you move to any other country, it's not just about having the freedom, like Pastor John says. It's also about there's responsibilities. You have to
Yes.
learn about that country, and if we really go back and remember why we move here, it's because I don't really think that United States has the most amazing um, you know structure, how everything is. You go to I can talk about Mexico. All the rules that we have in the United States, all the process. There's always like kind of like an agenda. Is you want to become uh, an attorney? Okay, you have to take all these classes, and
Mhm.
you can apply anywhere you want to work, or even have your own law firm. There's other countries, and maybe many people from this country doesn't realize there's other countries that it doesn't matter how, if you graduate and if you have all A's and all that, those things might not happen in other countries, because you have to know someone to put you in that position.
Right.
and and so being an American is not just about um, you know get all this uh, freedom that we have to be able to do whatever we want to do and become whoever we want to. There's also responsibilities, and I really think is we really look into that. It's not too hard to follow those rules. And it's just we need to think this way, like someone already worked on that, and that's why it's the way that this country is, because someone already worked on those rules and the constitution and everything. And that's why United States is the way that it is, because someone already worked on that. And I don't think that is too hard to follow that, and be proud, and be an American. It's not like I'm gonna move to Europe and I'm gonna use my rules and try to change that country the way that I want it. No, if I'm moving to Europe, I have to learn and understand that country, and if I want to become successful, I need to learn how that country works. It's not going to change just because okay, I'm moving to United States and I'm going to try to do everything that I do in Mexico or Venezuela, in other country. That doesn't work that way. So um, I'm very proud because I don't have to work in all those rules. Is this country is the way that it is because someone else already did it. We just need to follow
That's right.
and do the try to do the right thing. So
Okay. Our next question: what is racism? I'll let you start.
well, it's just my belief. I think everything starts since you're little. I think everything starts since from home, your parents, your family, and um, I can. We're lucky that I born in Mexico, and my family always taught us that everyone is the same, everyone is equal. My father was a farmer, and he used to treat everyone the same way. He was dealing with another business person or dealing with the person that was cleaning the ranch or whatever. Everyone on my father eyes were the same.
And just to clarify, did you grow up like really poor in Mexico?
No, no, we're
So your
not.
father was not. He was a man of status.
Yes. Yeah, we really don't have to worry for anything, and that's why he didn't really see the reason for me to move here, because we were having,
Yeah.
we were
You got
good.
what you needed.
Yes. But I didn't want to get married at that age and be like, that's not what I wanted to do. But yes, so he was, people had a lot of respect for him. He was a very giving person, and but he always, all my sisters and brothers, we always treat everyone the same, and I think that starts since we're little. I saw racism when I was, in school, when I had some friends like, oh, no, don't talk to that person, don't talk to that girl, because that girl goes to a public school. I went to a private school all my life, and we were lucky that my parents really, they really work on us and everything. But I remember I lost friends because they didn't want me to talk to another friend that was in a public school. And there was, it was so hard for me because I was at home. My family, they were like, it's okay to have, friends, any color, any, status, financial status, anything. But my some of my friends that they didn't like that, and that was something that I was fighting with that because I didn't want to lose those friends, but at the same time, I wanted to be friends with other people. So I think racism, we grew up with that. And I really think it's up to us to really fight for that and to really say, you know what, I don't agree with what you said. I respect that you don't want to be next to, or have a friend that is black or white or Vietnamese or Indian or, I respect that, but that's not something that I believe. I think I choose my friendship based on the values that people has, and but it's something that we're always going to be fighting against, and that's something that I'm teaching now to my daughters, because I want to make sure that they understand that everybody, we're all the same. Is of course we look different, but that doesn't that should not define us. My oldest daughter is funny because the other day she was telling me that she went out with her friends. She lives in San Antonio. She sent me a picture, and I didn't realize. But when she sent me the picture, I saw that. So she was, she's Hispanic. She born in United States. She never lived in Mexico, but she's Hispanic. And she was with her roommate. That she's from Zambia, Africa. That's her best friend, and she was with another friend that he's from Vietnam, and another friend from India. And I didn't realize that there were all different cultures, and she doesn't see it different because that's the way that she grew up to really see everyone the same way. So yeah, so that's what I think about racism.
What do you think racism is?
Well, let me read a definition of it. How about that? The belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or races. Prejudice, discrimination, antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. So I won't talk as a preacher today, but I'll lend a scripture to it. The book of James says that why are these bickerings and quarrelings among you? And goes on to say, because everybody want their way. And it hadn't changed even in the cultural pandemic or this ethnic pandemic that we find ourselves in. The problem still is that we want our way. And if we have to destroy another race to get it, that's what we will do. Evil is prevalent in any race, but what America accords us is not the promise of equal outcomes, but it gives us the opportunity to have equal access. And we all can do that. Young men that I graduated high school with that were black like me had the opportunity to go on to college, to seek education at a higher level, and to become something. We can go to school. Our graduates now can go out here to Midland College practically free for 2 years, but they won't take the advantage. So it's easy to sit back and say that, since we're having hard conversations, that the white man is against me, or the Mexican man doesn't like me, or this race is holding me back, when the reality is that no one is holding you back but you. You can blame someone else. And that racism, yes, there's racism. There are people that hate me because I'm black. There are probably people watching this that don't like me because I'm black. They don't like Lucy's accent. I bet you do. They don't like John's collar. They don't like your smile.
Imagine that.
You know, but do I stop living because someone does not like who I am? Do I just curl up in a corner and say, well, I can't be successful because they don't like me? I'm not going to do that. I'm a South Side Midland fellow. And I was told by people that I could never be successful in pastoring a church. Here we sit.
All right. Father John?
Well, think, as Roy does, I'm sure, that it arises out of the brokenness of our humanity.
Yeah,
That we all want to have somebody to look down on so we can feel better about
about
ourselves.
ourselves. Yeah,
But the only way we really can feel better about ourselves is realize that we, like everybody else that's at the level ground at the foot of the cross, is a sinner loved by God. That's where our worth is. And we quit getting out of these kind of rat race kind of games where we got to have climb a climb ladder and look down on somebody, because if you get to the top, you're still a rat.
you're still right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's the truth.
So
Well,
yeah.
and Carla, before you jump back in there with John, there are bad things that have happened across our country to black people. But there are bad things that have happened to other races too. I don't want to make light or try to play like we're ignoring what goes on in our country. There are bad police officers that have mistreated people. There are bad citizens who have mistreated police officers. It's in any of us, and these wrongs need to be rightened. But we have to righten those things by the process of the law. And some things need fixing right now, but you can't fix them by being wrong yourself.
Well, thank you. And you partially answered the next question. Does it exist in America? I mean, seriously, does racism exist in America?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, yes, yes.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And Lucy, you were talking earlier, and we talked about in Mexico, and so I'm gonna bring it forward now to where we are and what we can accomplish. You hit a little bit on that also, but you said your dad, you didn't want for anything. You know, your dad was a man of some high esteem. So in my mind, which I know it's not true because I know your story, but in my mind, you came to America and no wonder you're so successful. You had money and you had everything. I mean, somebody paid for you to go to college and took care of everything. So yes, you're supposed to be successful, right?
Yeah, I know, but that was not the case. That was not the case. I wish it was that my father paid for college and all that. So no, I came here with maybe I don't even know, maybe that less than $1,000 or less than that. Um, I just came here because I had dreams and I was scared. But my dad says, "You as you go to United States, you're in your own." He was really scared for me to be here because I'm an immigrant. And he's like, "No, they're not gonna treat you right. They're not gonna, he gave me all the disadvantage to be Mexican in United States. And what I told him is like, I just want to see if I can accomplish these dreams that I have because I don't want to be one day and say, well, I even didn't try it. So I just gonna take the risk. And yes, I was scared. I moved here. I was living in an apartment with 5 other girls. Used to live in the sofa because the ones that could afford to be in the room. We have 2 rooms in the apartment, so those are the ones that were inside the apartment. So my clothes was kind of like in the room where we have all the cleaning supplies, and I didn't get to have a lot of clothes there. And I got a job, and I started little by little. I didn't have a car because he really thought that if I don't help, she will come back. But I really it was just too much that I really dream about stuff that I wanted to do that I didn't want to go back. I really want to try it. And yeah, so I went to school and I was working, and then the company that I work for, they saw that I think one of the advantage that I have is like I don't get even though I was scared, but I don't get scared very easily. I don't know if that makes sense. Don't get intimidated. So yeah, I start working with this company, and at the age of 20, that's when I start flying in a private jet, just me and the pilot, start negotiating deals. And I was not in real estate, but I was in import export company. So I like it. I love it. And there was times that they were hard. I think I mentioned that in the speech that I did, that there was times that I used to eat McDonald's almost every day. The hamburgers that are 2 for $1. And I remember saying that I was just trying to one day that kind of like put extra lettuce or extra cheese just to think that the hamburger is different from the next day because that's what I couldn't afford. And so yeah, I have so many challenges, and I just pray about it, and I just thought like, what, I'm almost there. I'm gonna get a certificate for do property management or do real estate, and I just start doing it. But yes, it was not easy, and no, I didn't have the money to go to college and do all that. I have to work for it.
Okay. Has racism or your ethnicity caused you hurt or troubles in America? Father John, why don't you answer that?
No, it really hasn't, honestly. No. So, but I was just thinking of what Lucy was saying, that she's her immigrant, being an immigrant. We're all immigrants. My father's grandparents came from the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia as it was then, and he went from rags to riches himself, because his father abandoned him at birth because his mother.
Talk more into your mic
Yeah.
because they can't hear you when you don't.
It's not close enough.
It's just not.
Oh,
yeah.
but his father abandoned him at birth because his mother died giving birth to him. It was a C-section done by a country doctor. So he basically had to work his way through college. And I remember when we were growing up, he would read us books by Horatio Alger about poor boys that become successful later by hard work. And that was his story, basically. And so my story became easier because of that, because he was able to be successful. But he shared that kind of experience of kind of coming into America, as a, yeah.
And that that's one of the big discussion topics, when the term white privilege comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to trace your going to Ellis Island and finding your ancestry there. Well, mine's probably not going to be there, and so Roy's is probably not going to be there. So there are all these inequalities, and so they're real. So we don't, again, like you said earlier, we don't downplay, we don't act like they don't exist. What they did benefited you, as because of the opportunity that was afforded that was not afforded to our ancestors. But we're here now, and we can make good of all the opportunities that are afforded to us now. Has racism or your ethnicity caused you hurt or troubles in America?
Not only has it still does. I choose not to allow those things to detour me from my calling and from what it is I'm supposed to do, and that's to love people. But there are still times when you are walking by a car, you hear the doors locked, or you walk into a department store and you're made to wait. I've been in department stores where I'm standing at the counter and a white guy can come up next to me and they'll ask him if they can help him. And I've been standing there. John, you and I talked about this. That kind of stuff happens all the time. My answer to stuff like that is not to go off on the person that's working there. It's not really going to help the situation. But if I feel slighted, I'll let them know that. I'm not going to stand there and be disregarded. I'm going to say something about it, but I'm going to say it in such a way that you have to deal with me as a human being, not as an animal full of anger. I'm not going to approach it like that, because we cannot make people treat us like we want to be treated. You have to earn that kind of respect. And even with that, you're not going to get it everywhere you go. I had a black guy tell me the other day, there's no such thing as racism against white people, that black people cannot be racist. He told me that, and there are some things that are said to me that leave my mouth open, because white people experience it too. Now, John and I can go, when you talk about privilege, there are things that have happened to me in my life that he will not be able to touch. And I'm going to agree with Matthew McConaughey in this, in that what we're doing is not asking the right questions. Uh, John's family never did anything to mine. And the white people living today, they're not guilty of slavery, but that's not the point. The point and the question that has to be asked is since you said, and Dr. Tony Evans said it like this, is that we all may have come over here in different ships, but we're in the same boat now. But the question is, what can I do to affect change now? It doesn't matter what I didn't or did not do. What am I doing? Black, white, Mexican, Korean, Japanese, Asian, it doesn't matter. What am I doing to affect change now? That's the question that needs to be asked. How can I help my people, my brothers, my sisters, my neighbor now? That's the question that has to be asked and answered.
All right, and I think this is our last one. Lucy, I don't think you've answered this one yet, have you? Has racism or your ethnicity caused you hurt or troubles in America? Have you answered that one yet? Answer it again.
Okay. That's good. Well, I can't, I really think that that's not gonna stop. I wish we can control it more. And I know there might be people that say, oh, there's no way that that you can control this, but I think it is. And let me tell you something. Um, the reason that I say that this will not stop because I was involved in a very sad and hard situation here, not even a year ago in Midland, and at the end of the day, it was racism, and I was in a meeting room full of women in a nonprofit organization, and one of the ladies start yelling and insulting and because I wanted to do something that based on the nonprofit rules, it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And she just started yelling and everything and saying, no, no, and you just want to do it because, it's your friend anyways. So the point is not about that. It's just about the entire room didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And why didn't do anything about it? And I couldn't do the same thing. I couldn't say, you know what? I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. When she was kind of like, pointing at me, I couldn't just stay quiet
Mm-hmm.
and do nothing. But I know even, my heart was like, just stay quiet, because that's what my husband tell me most of the time, don't do. But that's not really me. That's not me. So I stand up and I just face the consequences. And it was hard. It
Sure.
was sad. But you know what? After I did that, I got 3 other women that joined the same nonprofit organization before that got the same situation, were insulted and were mistreated. And at the end of the day, that's what I told my husband. You know what? I think I did the right thing. It was
Yes.
very hard for me to do, but thanks to that, these 3 other women came to me, and you know what? I think the sad part about that when you do things like that and nobody else stand up for you, those women ended up thinking, oh, maybe I did something wrong. And I know that happened a lot, that maybe people think because they did something that it was not good for the rest because they didn't want to confront that situation. They ended up thinking, oh, maybe I did something wrong, that's why they treat me that way.
Mm.
And let me tell you, I don't think that nobody should be treated that way for speaking out. We're in a country that we're free to say what we think, and we should do what is the right thing to do. So yes, I got in trouble for that, but I'm pretty proud.
Yeah.
And I will do it all over again.
Amen. That's right.
And that's what I say. And that's when I heard people reach out to me, oh, why you think about this? I don't think that I want to say anything because I don't want to get in trouble. And it's like, that's why this country is going where it's going because we don't want to speak out. And we need to. We really
True.
need to. We really need to do something about it because it's like and I wish we can have my husband in one of these programs, not because he's my husband, but because he's from Venezuela. And anytime that you ask him about Venezuela, he always had water in his eyes. And he said, he always says something, I think you're right when you say that we need to do something because that's the way that Venezuela was. We
That's
thought
right.
that nothing will ever happen because it was the richest country on the world. And, we just sitting comfortable, looking how everybody was fighting, but we were not really doing anything. And now Venezuela don't even have water.
Let's go.
And a lot of people think that this country, because it's United States, cannot go get to that, and maybe it won't. But let me tell you, there's so many things that are happening right now that years back when I moved here, we never thought that this will happen. We
That's right.
never thought that this will happen, and it's happening now. And this really worried me because I really want my daughters to live the American dream, to live the way that I live in this country, and that's why, I'm I'm speaking out.
Amen.
I'm not keeping my mouth shut.
That's it.
I'm just trying to do the right thing, and I will do like Pastor Roy always say. And this sure I say whatever
That's right.
I think, and I admire you for that. So I really think that we need to do it, and we need to stop being afraid of doing the right thing.
Amen.
Well, we're about to wrap up our first episode, but the thing that I love and appreciate about this is the different viewpoints, the coming from different areas with the way we see what's going on in our country and why we think it's a great country. And if you think it's a great country and you'd like to be part of the panel at some point, please PM us, like us on Facebook, give us a personal message, or just comment in the comment section. We'll go back and look at those and let us know that you want to be a part of these conversations, of these hard conversations. I think our last question was, what does it mean to be free in a nation? And you guys talked about that. We also want to talk about voting, but we'll wait and hold that for next week so that we can have some time to spend on that. I want to thank each of you for being willing to share and open up your lives. Um, I love what we're doing also. I love what we're doing. And I know that there are others who are hearing and seeing that are proud to be here and that have stories to tell, good and bad, but there's no place else that they would rather live. I want to thank our studio audience of 3 for coming out today. We just had
Thank
one to
you.
come. Yes. And now we have 4, so we have grown. Um, Good social distancing going on out there. But thank you guys for listening. Tell your friends. We have plenty of room. Um, I'm not sure if we're doing this Tuesday or Thursday of next week. I'll have to check. But see us on Facebook. We'll keep you posted, let you know when the next one is. And if you have questions that you'd like answered, then also put those in the comments so that we can ask our panel and we can dialogue on those and hopefully build up a camaraderie for our nation.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
closing remarks, Lucy?
I just think that everything that is, I don't know how the saying says, but everything that start little at some point and grows. So this, um, the hard conversation program that we have is something that we're really doing and with our heart. Miss Carla reached out to me, and this is kind of like her idea. And I thought, you know what, maybe I think we can get something with this. I think maybe we can try to see, you know, send the message out there for people that see what great country this is, and maybe we can concentrate on that and just trying to stop all the negative and all the bad stuff that is going on. Maybe we can do something with this. So
Well, thank you. And I will say, it may have been my idea, but don't have an idea until Lucy, because she's gonna make you do it. It was my idea, but boy, she took it and started running. I'm like, whoa. So thank you for that. Father John, you have any closing remarks?
Well, just that pick up on what's been said about the responsibility about for things to change, we have to do what we can to bring the change. And so Roy mentioned he just didn't sit there and not say anything and then Lucy said, she had to speak up when something was unacceptable, and otherwise it just keeps going. So yeah, the responsibility is ours.
Pastor Smith?
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I would say is be the difference you want to see in others.
All right. Be the difference. Well, thank y'all for joining us live or later, and let us know what you think. Bye-bye.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.